The newest dungeon just came out. It's called the Tempest Heart Expedition. We are going to be using nwdb.info for all of this information, so go check out that website. But I'm going to go boss by boss to see which drops are the best. I'm going to go over all of the unique drops for each boss. So let's dive into the first boss. The first boss is called Red. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, but I'm probably gonna mispronounce a lot of things since my first language isn't English. But let's take a look at the drops. The first drop that it can drop is the Wizard Pants. This pants drops with intelligence, shrinking fortification, meaning dodging through an enemy attack grants fortify, increasing damage absorption by 3.8% for 6 seconds. This is a new perk, and it goes on saying each armor piece with this perk increase the potency of the effect. It seems like a really good pants. It also comes in light. The next perk is refreshing, which is really good for a mage, and then elemental aversion, also really good for PvP. So overall I think this piece is really good. I haven't tested out the newest perks, but they seem really good, so watch out for this pants. After this pants we also get another one. This one is called the Raider's Pants. This one rolls with dexterity, corruption, resistance, basically nothing that we can use. But the next one is refreshing and freedom, two really good perks on the Raider's Pants. This boss also drops a hatchet. It's called the Black Guard's Hatchet. It rolls with 30 strength, thwarting strikes. I don't know how to say that correctly, but basically it deals 11% additional damage while you have active crit. Really good perk since you can go with 300 strength, so you will always have crit. And then it rolls with keen, really good, and then keenly empowered. So overall I think this hatchet is really good, so look out for it. It's the first boss in the dungeon. Now let's go over to a bow that it also drops, and this is also the last drop it will drop. Then we will go on to the next boss. The next one is a bow called the Black Guard's Bow, and this bow will roll with plague strikes. Really good. Heavy attacks against targets will inflict disease for 8 seconds, reducing healing effectiveness on the target by 24%. Really good. The next perk is Keen, 11% critical hit chance, obviously really good. And then Keenly Empowered, gain extra empowered on critical hit. Really good bow. Maybe Vicious would have been a little bit better for the headshot damage, but overall I think the bow isn't that bad. Now let's move on to the next enemy. The next boss is Crewman Ruse, and they will drop 4 legendaries. The first one is the Wizard Gloves. This one will roll with Constitution, Physical Aversion, Refreshing, and Vigor. Pretty good pants, nothing too crazy, but decent enough. Let's move on to the next piece. Tactician's Hat. This one will roll with 25 strength, Resilient really good for PvP, Refreshing Evasion, also really good for your cooldowns, and then Invigorated, which is also pretty decent but not based in slot. Pretty good hat overall. It comes in light. Now let's move on to some pants. Next is the Conqueror's Greaves. This is heavy pants. This will roll with 25 Constitution, Physical Aversion, Refreshing, and Vigor. And finally let's move on to a life staff that this boss will drop. This is called the Black Guard's Life Staff. This will roll with 30 focus, Blessed, really good for life staff, Keen, which I don't really know why would you want to crit with the life staff. And then you get Keen Speed. I guess Keen and Keen Speed will synergize, but I still think Refreshing Move is a must on a life staff, so this one is a bit in the middle for me, not really that good. Let's move on to the next boss. The next boss is called Heki. I'm not really sure how to say that, but hopefully somebody can pronounce that. Definitely not me. So let's just get to the loot. So the first thing they will drop is a shirt. This is the Wizard shirt. This will roll with intelligence, striking fortification, dodging through an enemy's attack, grants fortify, increased damage absorption So the same one that was on the other piece, it's also wizened. So really good. We're going to stack, and then for the next one is refreshing, and then elemental aversion. I really like elemental aversion since most mages are range anyway, so it will really be helpful. Next, let's take a look at an earring that can drop from this boss, and this is a really good earring for mages, I believe, since they were lacking in jewelry, but in this patch I believe they will include some really good ones. This one will come with the refreshing toast, best in slot perk, refreshing and focus for that extra mana regen. I believe almost best in slot, but you can always do a little bit better. Maybe you don't need the mana regen in there. So overall really good earring, but let's move on to a really good ring that this boss also drops. For this ring, it's called the Surgeon's Ring. This one is really good for a Void Gauntlet since it rolls with 25 intelligence. Void damage, really good for Void Gauntlet. Keen awareness, also really good for Void Gauntlet. And then Infected, which will apply your disease for longer. Scream will apply disease if you have that armor perk, so also really good for Void Gauntlet overall. So if you like the Void Gauntlet, maybe take a look at this ring. Let's move on to the coat next. This coat is called the Raider's Coat. This will drop with 25 dexterity. Corruption resistant, not really that good. Refreshing and freedom, so it has two really good perks for PvP. So if you need something with two really good perks and you don't need an armor perk, maybe you can get this. It rolls in medium. Let's move on to the Great Axe. The Great Axe name is called Blackguard's Great Axe. This is actually a really good Great Axe. Pretty decent. I don't know if it's best in slot, but you can make up your mind. Best in slot is different to each person, but this will roll with 30 strength, transient recovery, which will fully charge heavy attacks, heal the player for 28%. Really good perk for PvE, I think. And then keen critical hit chance, and then keenly fortify, also really good if you want to be nice and tanky while you're healing up with your trench and recovery. So really good Great Axe if you need something. Definitely better than what we have now. Moving on to the last drop, it's a Rapier. It's called the Blackguard's Rapier. This will roll with 30 dexterity, striking abyss, dodging through an enemy's attack causes your next hit within 5 seconds to deal an additional 19% base weapon damage as void. Pretty good perk, I guess, if you dodge a lot and you're light. And then it goes with keen and keen speed. Probably not the best in slot Rapier, but there's a lot of Rapiers in this dungeon as well that might be better than this. Let's move on to the next boss. The next boss is called High Maiden Lie, or I don't know how to say that, but of course let's just jump right into the loot. The first one is Sagacious Pants. This is really good for a healer, so it will roll with 25 focus. Mending Protection, really good perk for healers. And then Refreshing, really good as well. And then Striking Energy. If a hit is avoided by dodging while in light equipped load, gain 28 stamina. This is really good. It basically refunds your whole dodge if you dodge an ability or an attack, and it has a 6-second cooldown. This is probably a must if you're a healer. Really good to keep yourself alive if you're in light, since you'll have so much dodge. Doesn't have resilient, but I think giving up resilient for an extra dodge right after you evade an ability, really good. I might pick this up for myself. Moving on to another pants that this boss can drop, it's the Tactician's Pants. This will roll with 25 strength, elemental aversion, really good against mages, refreshing evasion, and invigorated. That's a light pants. Next is a heavy chest piece, Conqueror's Breastplate. This will have 25 constitution, physical aversion, refreshing, and vigor. And then finally, for a Void Gauntlet that this boss will drop, it's called the Blackguard's Void Gauntlet. This will have 30 intelligence, plague crits, really good. Plague crits are really welcome in war. And then it has keen, really good for a Void Gauntlet. And then keenly jagged, also really good, since the Void Gauntlet crits a lot. It's probably not based on slot, but it's a really good start for somebody that wants something for war or just something that's pretty good but also not their best. But I will definitely pick this up and save it when I get it. Moving on to the next boss. This next boss is called Vroeg, or maybe it's pronounced in a different way, but I know you can say this in my language. Like Vroeg, it means early, so in my language. So let's continue. The first thing they will drop is a hat. It's the Wizard hat. This hat will come with intelligence, 25 intelligence, critical retribution. On crits taken, gain 9.4% increase critical hit chance for 7 seconds, and then it has a 20% cooldown. Interesting perk, maybe you can make a build out of it, and then it rolls with refreshing and elemental aversion. The next one is gloves. It will roll medium. This one will come with 25 dexterity, corruption resistant, refreshing and freedom. Nothing too special, but two really good perks at the bottom. Next up, a Warhammer. This one is called the Black Guards Warhammer. It will roll with 30 strength, 14 strikes. I can't really say that word correctly, but yeah, let's just continue. Deal 11% extra damage when you have active crit, and then keen and keenly empowered. It's actually not a bad hammer, does a lot of damage, so maybe if you want to do a lot of damage, check out the hammer. Let's go to the last drop, a musket. For this musket, it will roll with 30 dexterity, really good for a musket, obviously it scales from it, and then 14 counter, deal 14% additional damage against targets with active crit. Probably not the best one, because you don't go up against melee opponents that's face to face, that is basically hitting you, but I guess you can continue. Let's just go to the next one. It's Keen and Keenly Jagged. Keen and Keenly Jagged, really good for the musket, at least it helps with those two perks. Let's move on to the next boss. The next boss is called Cutthroat Idordo, another theme here that I can't say the name of the boss, but let's just continue. With this boss, you'll get another drop for the Wizard shoes. It's also for a mage. It has 25 intelligence. Sinking energy if you hit is avoided by dodging, while in light equipped load gain 28 stamina. Really good for getting back another dodge. Refreshing, and then it has elemental aversion, also really good. Then another pair of boots which rolls in medium. This one has 25 dexterity, elemental aversion, refreshing and freedom. Really good. These boots are called the Raider's boots. Then let's move on to gloves. The Conqueror's gloves or the Conqueror's gauntlets. This one is heavy. It will roll with 25 constitution, elemental aversion, refreshing and vigor. And then lastly for this boss, there's a spear. The spear is called the Black Guard Spear. This will roll with 30 dexterity, taunting counter, deal additional damage against targets with active crit, and then keen, which is really good, and keenly jagged. Keenly jagged, really good on a spear, since it has a passive. If somebody is bleeding, you can do more critical hit chance, or you gain more critical hit chance against that target. So really good spear overall. For the next boss, we are going to be fighting Isabella. At least I can say this one. And for the first drop, the second drop for the first fight, or I believe it's the first fight, there's a lot of Isabella fights in this dungeon, basically throughout it. But I believe this is the first fight. If I'm wrong, well, we still cover it. So the first one is Honest Thief. This one is a light headpiece with 25 dexterity, elemental aversion, refreshing, and then empowering splinter shot. Really good for a bow user that uses splinter shot, but I don't think a lot of bow users use that ability. But if you are, maybe look out for this hood. Moving on to another medium headpiece, a Scout's hat. This one has 25 intelligence, physical aversion, corrupted ward, and then slowing header. A decent piece, but probably not the best because it has corrupted ward. We don't really need those extra perks, but let's just move on to another helmet. This one will roll in heavy. It's called the Doom's Walker helmet. It has 25 strength, elemental aversion, corruption resistant, and then crippling reap. So if you're playing Great Axe and you want 2 really good perks, then maybe look out for this one if you go heavy. Next we get an amulet. This one is called Isabella's amulet. This one will roll with 25 focus, health, which is best in slot for an amulet, mana recovery, not really that good, and then empowered, which will make your empower last a little bit longer. Not the best amulet, but if you need something, maybe pick it up. And then let's move on to a spear, Sunrise Kiss. This is one of the spears that are featured for the dungeon, but it rolls with 30 dexterity, warding strikes, keen volt kick, and then chain lightning. Not the best spear, there's better ones out there that you can get in this dungeon. Next, after the spear, we get a bow, Wayward Thread. This bow will roll with 30 dexterity, refreshing evasion, keen, and refreshing move. So maybe you want some refreshing move on your bow, maybe look out for this one. Next, a musket. This one is called a Pleasant Reminder. It has 30 dexterity, Plague crits, really good in wars, and then Vorpal and keenly empowered. I think Plague crits on this is really good. I feel like this musket really promotes headshot damage because you get the Plague crits and keenly empowered on crit. So the more headshots you get, the more damage you will do. Definitely a musket that I will be keeping if I get it. Next and lastly for this boss, the last drop for Isabella, but that is at the start. It's the Twisting Fates Rapier. This one will roll with 30 dexterity, transient strikes, fully charged heavy attacks deal 14% additional damage, refreshing, and then striking abyss. Dodging through an enemy's attack causes your next hit within 5 seconds to deal an additional 19% base weapon damage as void. Moving on to the next boss, High Priest Referral. This priest will drop a shield, a Sagacious shield. It will roll with light. It comes in 25 focus, striking fortification, dodging through an enemy's attack grants fortify, and then refreshing and elemental aversion. Really not a bad piece, but it's a light. Nobody wears a light chest piece unless you play sword and shield with a small shield. So maybe not the best for a healer since you won't be able to optimize your build. But let's move on to the next shirt. The next one is called Tactician's Shirt, also in light, which will roll in 25 strength, physical aversion, refreshing, and invigorated. After the shirt, we get some heavy boots. This boot is called Conqueror's Boots, 25 constitution, corruption resistance, refreshing, and vigor. And then finally, for the last drop from this boss, it's the Blackguard's Fire Staff. It will roll with intelligence, plague strikes, really good, and then keen and keenly empowered. So overall, a really good fire staff. I believe I'll definitely be keeping this one if I get it, since I want to play multiple builds. Let's move on to the next boss. Next boss is called High Priest Vizier, again with the names. But for the first drop, this is a really good drop. It's called the Sagacious Hat. This one will come with 25 focus, fortifying sacred ground, really good for healers, refreshing, and elemental aversion. Really good piece. I might pick it up and I might even use it. We'll take a look. And then next one is called Tactician's Gloves. This one will roll with light, 25 strength, physical aversion, refreshing evasion, and vigorated. And then for another heavy helmet, Conqueror's Helmet. This will come with 25 constitution, resilient, really good, refreshing, and vigor, also really good. This piece is actually really good. So if you're a tank, or maybe you just want something that you can go with con and heavy armor, then look out for this piece. And then finally for an Ice Gauntlet. This Ice Gauntlet is called the Blackguard's Ice Gauntlet. It will roll with 30 dexterity, 30 intelligence. Plague strikes, really good since you heavy attack a lot with the Ice Gauntlet when you want to root somebody. And then keen and keenly empowered. Really good ice gauntlet overall, and I'll definitely be keeping this one. Moving on to the next one, Hatman Pan. For the first drop, we have the Sedacious Gloves. This will roll with 25 focus. It's also light gloves. It will come with striking fortification, dodging through an enemy's attack, grants fortify, refreshing, and elemental aversion. And we also get the shoes, Sedacious shoes, also light. This will have 25 focus, accelerating light's embrace, refreshing, and elemental aversion. And then another shoe that this boss will drop is Tactician's shoes. This will go with 25 strength, corruption, refreshing evasion, and invigorating. We also have the Raider's hat next, which will drop in medium. This will come with 25 dexterity, resilient, refreshing, and freedom. Literally a best in slot medium piece for dexterity if you're not going to use an armor perk for your weapon. So really good piece. Definitely a best in slot if you use medium. Now let's take a look at a really good sword. This one is probably one of my favorites, and I'm sure my twin brother will be excited for this since he runs sword and shield sometimes. But this one is called the Black Guard's Longsword. It will roll with 15 constitution, transcend strikes, fully charged heavy attacks, deal 14% additional damage. Keen, which will give you crit chance, and refreshing move. Refreshing move really good on sword since they have a lot of cooldowns, long cooldowns. So let's move on to the next boss. The next boss is a snake guy, really difficult name for me to pronounce again. It's called the Naisha Tan. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna have to say this a lot since he drops a whole set. So for the first set he will drop is the Shaitan Gloves, and I'm having a really difficult time pronouncing it, but it will roll with 25 constitution, elemental aversion, refreshing, and empowering breaker. When your attacks are blocked, gain a stack of empower, increasing damage by 3.8%. Really good. Can stack up to 5 times. And then for the boots, the Naisha Tan boots, whatever, it has 25 constitution, elemental aversion, refreshing ward, and vigor. Also really good. Maybe the set is really good. Let's take a look. Again, all of them are heavy so far. Now for the greaves, this will have 25 constitution, physical aversion, refreshing ward, and invigorated. And then for the helmet, for this boss, it has 25 constitution, physical aversion, refreshing ward, freedom. Also not too bad. And finally for the breastplate, it has 25 constitution, physical aversion, refreshing ward, and then a new perk called Sturdy Energy. When blocking a hit while below 30 stamina, gain 38% increased stamina regen for 6 seconds, does not trigger if exhausted. So a really good perk for the tanks out there. Maybe look out for this piece, really good. Let's go on to earring. Next that this boss will drop is called the Keepsake of the Divines. This one will roll with 25 focus. It will come with the perk Focused, which will give you mana regen, mana toast. When you drink a health potion, gain mana, and then refreshing ward. Not too bad, but not something I want. And then for an ice gauntlet, this boss will drop. This one was called the Glacial Sorrow. 30 intelligence, like strikes, really good. Unending fall, mortal siphoning. So you can, maybe if you want this, you can pick it up, but I think the other one was a little bit better. But let's move on to it. The Fire Staff, they will drop Emberstone Promise. This has 30 intelligence, enchanted, giant fire, which will give you 11% extra weapon damage, and then keenly jagged on crit you will cause bleed. So really good. And then they also have a little life staff in here, but let's check how good it is. This life staff is called the Reluctant Savior, I guess. 30 focus, place, refreshing evasion, chain nature. Probably not the best, but yeah, let's move on. Next, they have a Void Gauntlet, Infinite Chaos. This one will roll with 30 intelligence, keen, which is really good, and life stealing, really good as well, and then Corrupted Bane, not so good. So let's move on to the next boss. The next boss is also Isabella. Since you fight her multiple times, she has different loot drops. So let's take a look at what she drops. This time she drops a Rapier, Isabella's Rapier. This will come with 30 dexterity, vicious key, really good, and then striking abyss. Dodging through an enemy causes your next hit within 5 seconds to deal additional 19% weapon damage as void. Maybe really good, maybe we should try it out, I'm not sure, but if you need a Rapier, take a look. Next, let's move on to a shirt. The shirt will come in light. It's called the Honest Thief shirt. It will come with dexterity, physical aversion, refreshing, enfeebling, poison shot. Moving on to a coat. This coat will come in medium. It's called the Piguous Scout's coat. I'm probably saying that wrong, but just forget about it. Let's just say what's the perks. It comes with 25 intelligence, elemental aversion, corrupted ward, and nullifying oblivion. Moving on to a heavy breastplate. Doom's Walker's breastplate, 25 strength, physical aversion, corruption resistance, and then insatiable gravity well. So pretty good if you need two really good perks. Otherwise, maybe just craft your own. Next, let's move on to a ring. Forgotten Vow. This ring will come with 25 strength, enfeebling, slash damage, and hardy slash damage, really good. I'm not so sure about enfeebling, but let's move on to a hatchet. The hatchet is called the Follow Fields. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but yeah. It comes with 30 strength, heighted, keenly fortified, and refreshing. She also drops a hammer, Clamadius Intent. Can't pronounce it, can't read it. Let's just keep going. 30 constitution, transient rain, fully heavy attacks will cause rain for 7 seconds, and it will go on cooldown for 12 seconds. And then it comes with refreshing mighty gravel, really not that good to be on a weapon piece, and then refreshing board. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is called well, it's a great axe. It's called Vision of Viciousness. So this great axe will come with 30 strength, transient strikes or transient crits, fully charged heavy attacks deal 19% additional crits, striking flames. Dodging through an enemy causes your next attack to deal an additional 19% weapon damage as fire damage, and then vicious. And then finally, the last drop for this boss, Omen. It's a sword. This will come with 15 constitution, transient recovery, fully charged heavy attacks heal the player, and then life stealing and refreshing ward. And that covers all the bosses. Hopefully I got everything. I tried my best to get each drop from each boss. There are a couple of things that I am unsure about. For example, you get Isabella's Gaze, which is a drop where you get her glowing eyes, which will come with dexterity, striking fortification, critical retribution, and refreshing evasion. But I didn't see it drop from any boss in the dungeon. Maybe it's the secret boss that you can get when you collect all the swords, but I'm not 100% sure. But maybe I'll cover it in a future video. This video was quite long, but thank you for sticking around. If you found this video helpful and you liked it, then please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe for more New World videos.